Hello everybody. Let me move the camera so it's a little bit closer. All right. Let me know if you guys can hear me. I am using a mic just so the sound quality is a little bit better. And there are times when it cuts off or something happens. So just let me know here if, let me get my class notes 1 second. All right, and let me pull up the chat here. They've kind of changed things here since the last time I've done a live. Okay, perfect. 1 second. Dang it, the orientation was not set properly. So the chat appears, but it's sideways. So trying to fix that, but I'm not sure if I can at this point. All right, anyways, at least I can see it. Oh man. All right, so 1 second guys, I have to do a setting here to flip this. I might have to exit the whole thing and just start over. Actually, let me see, settings. Man. I'm so sorry guys. I have it on my phone. I'm trying to look at the settings. I'm gonna have to exit this class so I can restart it and set the setting to horizontal. It automatically defaults to like a vertical thing, so not what we need. Or maybe I just turned my phone. Looks kind of funky to me. But I don't think it'll be horizontal view then for like the YouTube view. Let me know. Does it look vertical like on TikTok or something? All right, but is it shooting this vertical? Well, if you guys are on your phones, it's gonna look vertical probably. I'm gonna leave it here. All right, we're not gonna exit or anything. Okay, so sorry about that. Usually there's always some kind of technical issue when I'm trying to do one of these. Yeah, it looks like it's on TikTok. Okay, we're just gonna proceed with it. That just means when the class is over and this uploads to my YouTube channel that it's gonna be that vertical alignment with the black edges instead of being nice and horizontal. But I don't want to, right, portrait view. I don't want to restart this and everything, especially since I had it all set up. So sorry about that, but at least you guys can still get this information. I am sitting under some trees. Hopefully it stays light enough outside just so I can finish up this class and it doesn't get too dark. But it's extremely hot here. It's in the 90s right now in Florida. So I tried to push this class a little bit later so that it's not so hot outside and I'll be literally melting in front of you guys. So anyways, let's, I just want to begin with some reminders. Maybe you're new to this class, you've never been to one of my live garden classes, just so you kind of know how this goes, and allow some more time for people to join in on the class. So today's topic is about fall garden planting. If you're a southern gardener, fall is like the best time to be gardening. So you really want to capitalize on the fall season. If you're a northern gardener, that's going into the end of like your best growing time of the year. For you guys, it would be spring, summer, and fall. So a lot of these techniques, tips, stuff that I'm giving in this class will really help you when you prepare for your spring gardens. If you're a northern gardener, you want to capitalize for spring. But if you're a southern gardener with mild winters, maybe you don't get any snow at all, your ground doesn't freeze, that kind of thing. For us, it's kind of opposite. It's our best seasons are fall, winter, and spring. Summer is what terminates my garden for the most part. Right now, I actually just finished shutting down half of my garden. It's solarizing. I might show you guys some of that at the end of this if we have time. I grow year round though. There's no way I can not be without my garden and growing something. So the other half is still functioning. I'm still planting things, but that's like the super tropical heat tolerant types of things. So yeah, if you're in the north, watch this, get some ideas. That way you guys can be ready for, spring season. If you're a southern gardener like me, right now is the best time. And yes, you have to start planning your fall garden now. It's July, it's the middle of summer. The last thing you're probably thinking about is fall, but it starts now. You guys see all my videos, all the things I do, all the stuff that I harvest and grow. That is very careful planning and being on time early, trying to get things planted as early as possible so I have the longest growing and harvest period. So that's how I get to kind of just maximize my production and everything. I do see your comments and questions. I will periodically stop throughout the class to read them. Sometimes I have to scroll through and kind of catch up so I can read your questions. I really hate missing anyone's questions, but if you ask something, please put your garden zone in state so I can better tailor my answer to, your question. All right, so anyways, at the end of this class, I do send a summary email with all of the resources, supplies, whatever things I might mention in this class. To get that email, you do have to be subscribed to my email group. There is a link in the description, I believe, of this live class if you're not subscribed yet, or you can go to my website, jarrahsgarden.com, and one of the tabs or buttons at the top says email group. They're the first ones to know everything that's going on, special sales, discounts, when I'm doing live garden classes. I do post this stuff on my social media accounts and here on YouTube as well, but sometimes that stuff gets lost in the feed. So definitely, if you don't want to miss any of my classes and stuff like that, make sure that you are subscribed to my email group. These classes are random and kind of last minute. It just depends what I'm doing in the garden, the weather, and if there's something to teach. Right now, I am super busy with getting started on sowing all of my seeds for fall, which I'm definitely going to show you guys that whole process, the supplies I like to use and why. That's really important to know why you're doing what you're doing. I have a lot to teach right now, so that's why I decided to do this class. Primarily, I like to do classes during the fall, winter, very early spring before it gets super hot like it is right now. But I had to do this class. It's July, but I had to do this class because it is such an important part of the gardening and growing season for us, or for a lot of us. So I'll just deal with the heat for a little bit to chat with you guys. So yeah, after this class is done, it'll automatically be uploaded to my YouTube channel. So if you miss something or we get disconnected or whatever, you can go rewatch it there. And I also send that email kind of summary of all the resources and everything for the class. And if you didn't know, I am a seed and plant nursery. I specialize in unique edible plants, vegetables, and herbs. Right now in July, I'm hitting really hard starting all of my tomatoes from seed and some other crops, which we'll get into that as well. So to kind of just celebrate, I do have all my tomato seeds on sale. The sale ends tomorrow. It's automatically a discount applied on your orders. So take advantage of that to kind of stock up on some really unique varieties. I also have a couple YouTube videos where I taste test a lot of these. So if you want to learn more about the different varieties, what do they grow like, taste like, all that kind of stuff, I definitely have quite a few videos reviewing those as well. And you might see my dog pop in here or bark or make a noise. He's running around here behind me. And just going forward, I've done quite a few live garden classes over the last about 2 years. And I really enjoy doing them. It's a nice way to kind of chat with you guys. And, you know, when I'm posting things online, I don't get to see you guys. We don't really get to talk beyond, you know, messages, right, and text. So I really like talking to people about gardening, if you haven't noticed from my videos. So I really enjoy this and I have a great time doing it. I feel like you guys get a lot of it out of it as well. But going forward, my classes are now going to be part of a YouTube membership package here for my channel. And I put that together as a way to offer some kind of like extra perks for being a member and trying to get a little bit more hands-on with you guys, or at least the members, try to help you with, you know, any garden issues you might be having in real time. I can quickly, easily see your comments or questions compared to everyone else. I manage all of this by myself. This YouTube channel, my business, I film everything myself. I do have an editor that helps me edit things, but I don't have a team of people. So I am starting to get to the point where I can't keep up with all the messages and comments and stuff like that. So this membership helps me identify those people, and that way I can get to your questions a lot faster. So yeah, go check that out. Going forward, the live classes will be part of that as well. Okay, so let's get started with this class. I do see a question. Do I have any turnip green seeds? No, I do not. At this moment, I do not. Do you cook amazing food? Also, I love to cook. That is definitely probably the precursor to me getting involved with gardening and growing food, because I wanted good quality, interesting, you know, fruits and vegetables and stuff like that so that I can cook. I'm not a professional cook, but I would say I'm a pretty good, decent home cook. And I do post videos randomly, sometimes about recipes and things that I make with the produce and stuff that I harvest from my garden, just to give you guys ideas too. Oh, you have earwig infestation. Sorry to hear that. I've actually not had that issue in my garden yet, surprisingly. I would have to do some research to be able to tell you what to do about that. Do you have any issues with voles in the garden? I also do not. I do have an extremely high pest and disease pressure, being that I garden here in Florida, but I'm in a very urban like community development with houses like right there. There's my neighbor right there. You know, it's very small and compact, but very full of houses. So that kind of like blocks a lot of the, you know, the critters and animals, deer, rabbit, voles, that kind of thing. I don't have raccoons coming through either. So in that sense, I'm very fortunate, because that would just compound even more all of the issues that I already struggle with just for being a gardener in Florida. Some people deal with iguanas in South Florida, Miami area. I'm so sorry for you guys. I don't know what I would do if that happened. I'd probably cage up my entire garden. But luckily, I don't really have too much of a critter issue, so I'm sorry. I'm unable to answer that. I want to plant taro, but having a hard time finding some. You know, the easiest thing for you to do is go to a Latin American, Hispanic grocery store, or even a lot of your Asian grocery stores, and buy some taro tubers. They have quite a few different kinds in my local stores, because I've done it, and you just put the tuber in some soil and it will grow. Okay, but be very careful, because taro is in the same family as like ornamental elephant ears type plants, and those are not edible at all. So just because you see an elephant ear that looks like taro, I'm just saying, if you look outside in the landscape and see a plant like that, does not mean it's edible. I've had people actually ask me, hey, send me a picture. I see this plant in my yard. I just moved to this house. Can I eat it? I'm like, no, I don't know. That might not be the edible type. So please be very, very careful. I need to get on with the class, so I will circle back to your questions. You guys have a lot of questions. If I miss your question, please feel free to email me. My email is info@jarrodsgarden.com, or you know, you can put a comment or something. My dog is hitting my my tripod here, but there's a high probability I might miss that just because there's so many. But yeah, feel free to send me an email. But let me get started. We'll continue with the class. The first topic I wanted to hit was fall garden planning, and kind of like my method and strategy to plan it all out, figure out where I'm going to plant things, make sure I start enough seeds, all of that kind of stuff. So before you start buying and sowing seeds or plants, you need to kind of have an idea of how much space you're working with, because the worst thing is to spend all this money and start seeds, and maybe you didn't start enough, so your garden is a little empty, or you overdid it, you grew out too many things, and you have nowhere to put it. So kind of at least start planning and visualizing something. So in order to do that first, though, I highly recommend you gut out, clean up, build whatever you got to do, the garden itself, the space, the raised beds, the grow bags, your vertical trellis systems, whatever. I have several green stalk garden towers here around me. Like whatever it is that you want to start growing in, start working on that now, June and July, so that the space is ready, definitely ready by the time it's time to plant for fall. But that way you can look across, you can take measurements, you know exactly, you know, what kind of space you're working with. So June and July for me, as hot as it is outside here, I have to do it. I have to come out here. We've started gutting out everything, removing all the dead plants from the heat, like all of my tomatoes, they're done. I have decided to solarize a section of my garden, so we've cleaned all that up. It's all just sitting there waiting for, you know, fall time. So I can very easily look across the whole thing and see what kind of space I'm working with. And I highly recommend you start weeks in advance of whenever your planting time is, whether it be spring or fall. Start cleaning up, building, preparing weeks in advance. I can't tell you how many times I started all my seeds, they got to transplant size, it came time to plant them, but I didn't have the space ready. So now I cannot plant these transplants at their ideal time, right? And I have to take time to gut out the garden, clean it up, build this, whatever it is. So that maybe delayed me by a week or two of actually being able to transplant the plants into the garden. And what that means is 1 or 2 weeks less of growing time and harvest time. So that's why really important to kind of be on point and try your hardest to just get started on time. I am a procrastinator, as hard as that might seem with all the stuff I'm able to achieve, but I know if I wait until the last minute, I get stressed out, it seems overwhelming, and I tend to either not do it or I do it, but I'm rushed and I just want to get it done and it's not done well. So I just know myself, I have to kind of work on things in advance, weeks in advance, so that way it's done. I don't have to worry about it, everything's great. That's just how I function. So that is like my goal in June and July, just gutting out, cleaning. It's super hot out here. I come out here in little segments of time just to work on one little project over here, another little project over here, just little bits and bursts at a time, and then all of a sudden in a couple weeks you're done, and it didn't even feel and it didn't even feel like, you know, that much work. So that's kind of how I get it done. I don't have a garden assistant. I don't have no one really helping me with all this stuff. So if I didn't just practice like consistency like that, it would be extremely overwhelming for just one person. So just little bits at a time, 10, 15 minutes a day. What can you do? What can you finish or accomplish with 10 or 15 minutes a day in your garden? So that's kind of how I do it. Get everything ready, prepared. Now you know exactly the space you're working with. Amend your soils if you need to. Install drip irrigation ahead of time so that project is done and you're ready to go as well when you plant your plants. I installed a drip irrigation system by myself using a kit from dripdepot.com. I was super impressed how easy it was, no tools involved. I don't know anything about plumbing and water pressure and all that stuff, but these kits were so easy to put together. I did it in very little time. I do have a YouTube video showing you exactly how I set up that entire system using one of their kits if you need help with that. So now that I have the space kind of ready, I can see it. You don't have to do this, but I really enjoy mapping out my garden, because then I can visualize exactly all of the space, right? So this is graphing paper. I kind of use square foot gardening guidelines to figure out the spacing of all my plants. It varies depending on the crop you're growing. So every square of this graphing paper is 1 square foot for me. So this is accurate to the measurements. One of my growing spaces is 45 feet by 19 feet. So that's this one outlined right here. I can get pretty accurate with how many plants I want to, or I need to start sowing from seed. I will start drawing out all of my rows, the walkways. That way too, I know exactly where I need to put my drip irrigation lines. So this is extremely helpful. I will draw out all of the garden space. This is all in-ground space. I have even my, I have 6 great stock garden towers. I have so a couple of raised beds on the other side of my garden with a lot of grow bags. If you've been gardening for some time, your garden is probably going to be a mix of just everything, okay? It doesn't matter. It doesn't all have to be raised beds or whatever. Just, you know, whatever works and whatever helps you grow more food. So you can draw everything out on here. And then the next step is you got to figure out, what are you going to grow? What kind of crops do you want to grow? I always recommend start off with only the things you know you're going to eat, that you actually enjoy to eat. Most of us probably don't have very large amounts of space to work with your garden. So focus on the crops that are going to be most useful to you, that you guys like to eat, that kind of thing. If you have extra space, then, you know, experiment with some new things. One of my favorite things to do is, I can't tell you how many vegetables I did not like to eat until I grew them. I mean, so many vegetables from the grocery store lack flavor, they lack texture, they're gross. Eggplant was one of those for me, and passion fruit, and just so many other things. But when I grew them myself and harvested them, ripened on the plant, harvested at the correct time, the flavor, the texture, everything is completely different. I have not grown something that I did not like to eat at the end of the day. So if you do have space, go ahead and experiment with some new things. I also really enjoy growing obscure, not common stuff, especially from other countries. I like to collect seeds from other countries and stuff like that too. So I do have a little extra space where I can, you know, grow and experiment with some of those new things every season. So yeah, map out your garden if you can, and that will definitely help you visualize where you're planting everything and how many plants you need to grow. And then you have to know how many plants per person do you need in your household to be able to grow enough of a harvest to make it worth it, right? To make it worth a couple meals or something like that. Or if you want to can or preserve or freeze your harvest for a year's worth of food, something like that. You can Google that. I do have a list on my website. I have a blog section where I post a lot of information as well. I do have a list there that will tell you, hey, if you want to grow beans and you have 4 people per household, this is how many plants you need. So that way too, you can kind of gauge how many plants and stuff that you need to start from seed. And that way you're not wasteful with all your seed as well. So yeah, this is kind of what I do. So after I got it all mapped out, I start going through all of my seeds and pulling out the ones, the cultivars and stuff that I want to grow this season. And I start separating them into different Ziploc bags. So I have a Ziploc bag for each month. July is the first month that I start sowing certain crops for my fall, season. August, September, and then October, I have a little bit more to go and I'm pretty much done. So I have 4 of these baggies, 1 for each month. I start placing the seeds in each bag according to how far in advance do I need to start them from seed. So for example, the longest things that, get to transplant size from seed are going to be tomatoes, eggplants, peppers, and anything in the alliums family like onions and leeks. They just take forever. They take forever to get to size no matter what you do. So those things take anywhere between 8 weeks for tomatoes if you have grow lights, and I'll talk about that. Or it can be up to 3 months with like eggplants and peppers, 4 months with 3 to 4 months with like onions and stuff like that. Just depends. So those are the things I am going to be planting right now in this month in July. So I backtracked from my target date to plant these stuff into the garden. For me, that is the very last week of August or the first week of September. So I kind of do this thing with the holidays. July 4th is when I start preparing for sowing the seeds. And then Labor Day weekend in September is the last weekend I have to plant all of these things. So that's kind of how I just kind of stay on track. That works for me. I'm in Garden Zone 10A in Orlando, Florida. That'll pretty much work for people in Zone 9 because you guys are like 1, maybe 2 weeks ahead of me a little bit. So maybe you guys will start planting in like middle of August if possible. If you're in a hotter climate, zones like 11, you very south Florida people, Puerto Ricans, Hawaiians, that kind of thing, you can probably wait a little bit to like mid-September. So adjust your planting times according to where you're at. If you're zone 8, you're probably going to be like 3, maybe 4 weeks ahead of me. It just depends. But you can do the same exact thing. When do you want to plant all these things in your garden? Backtrack from there to know when you need to start the seed, make your bags, and put those seeds in the bags. So when July 1st rolls around, I pull out my bag and I know this is everything I need to sow from seed this month. Then when it's August 1st rolls around, these are all the next set of crops that I need to sow from seed. So that way you don't get overwhelmed. It's a little bit at a time, it's broken apart, and you're sowing your seeds all on a timely basis as well. I grow hundreds of things. And I sow hundreds and hundreds of trays of stuff by myself. And this is the only way I could do it, just dividing it up and working on it little by little. So that's kind of how I wrap up, getting prepared, planning for the upcoming growing season. Make sure you gather all the seeds. Like let's say there's something you definitely want to grow this fall season, but you don't have seeds, go get your seeds because most likely they will sell out, especially if it's something, popular or rare or obscure. Also go get your supplies because everyone else in your area is also probably starting their gardens and all of that. I can't tell you how many times I went into my Home Depot to find soil or whatever, and it was sold out, the kind that I like. So, just start thinking about these things, gathering your stuff slowly. I'm getting prepared. So as far as the planting schedules or sowing seed schedules, I touched on it a little bit. July is when I start all my seeds for tomatoes, peppers, eggplants, onions, leeks. August is when I will do cucumbers, melons, squash, zucchini, herbs, brassicas. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. Corn, beans, flowers. Some of these crops are best direct sowed from seed, so I'm not going to be, sowing them in containers and stuff like that. I have supplies around me I'll pull out in a bit. But some of them, it's best to sow them indoors. It just depends, and I will also get through that when I break down what I'm sowing this month. But at least I have all the seeds here, and I know, okay, in August, I'm going to sow seeds for cucumbers. I prefer to direct sow seeds for cucumbers. So I just have it ready. Like, okay, I'm going to direct sow those. In August, I started sowing seeds for all my brassicas. That includes things like broccoli, cauliflower, cabbages, kale. Like the brassicas family is huge. They do not like the heat. Do not, if you're in a hot climate, do not sow seeds for anything in the brassicas family outside or even in a patio, even if it's shade. It's still hot. If the temperature is above 85, it stunts their growth. The seedlings stay super, super tiny. They don't grow from there, and they might not ever recover. So brassicas, for me, I have to sow those seeds indoors. That is the only option. In July, I'm sowing seeds for tomatoes, eggplants, peppers. Those are warm weather crops. I have a screened porch patio thing, and I have tons of shelves there where I will sow all those seeds in containers and put them on those shelves in my patio. A lot of people ask me, is it okay if I sow those seeds just like outdoors in full sun? If you're in an extreme climate, I'm going to say no. Here in Florida, it's very humid. There's a lot of pathogens, all the things that cause diseases, like molds, funguses, viruses, bacteria, all of that stuff floats around everywhere. Someone was telling me that powdery mildew spores come from the northern parts of the United States and flow down, or maybe it's the other way around, come through the air or wind streams, and the spores go all the way up north, and then they start getting powdery mildew. It's like an annual thing that happens. So this stuff floats everywhere. If you want good seedlings, you want to increase their chances of survival, don't plant them outside. Don't sow the seeds outside. Put them at least, if it's a warm weather crop like tomatoes, peppers, eggplants, in something covered so they don't get rained on and that kind of thing. So that's my game plan with those warm season crops. They're okay under my screened porch. They're not getting rained on. They're not getting all these diseases. All the sensitive things like the brassicas, again, those go indoors for me. So Take a look outside. If it's extreme, if it's really hot, if it's cold, for you northerners, when you're starting your seeds for spring, if it's cold outside, don't don't sow your seeds outside. And I know a lot of people also are like, well, I don't have room indoors to sow seeds, and that very well could be your situation. I'm gonna flip the phone. I just kind of want to show you guys my seed sowing setup, because I do have a little thing here with an example. So 1 second here. The sun is now behind us, so it causes glares and all kinds of things. All right, can someone let me know if that looks okay? I don't know. Does it look funky? Is the sun messing it up? I'm gonna wait for someone's response. Oh, you guys see my dog? I love him. We just got him. Looks good. All right, thank you. So just to give you guys an idea, seed sowing indoors or in a patio or whatever, get one of these cheap mini little greenhouses. You can get them on Amazon. I think this one I got at Aldi's for like 30 bucks a few years ago. It's definitely well used here, practically almost falling apart, but it still works. So get one of these little mini greenhouse things and put it in your house in a corner. You know, it's only going to be there for a couple weeks, maybe a couple months, depends what you're growing. But this has the shelves that I need so that I can attach grow lights and put all of my trays with seedlings. So these are 10 by 20 trays. You can get them from Amazon. They help me transport this stuff very quickly. It holds 18 of these solo cups. So when it comes to large crops like tomatoes, peppers, eggplants, alufo, moringa, large crops, go ahead and sow them in a bigger size container to begin with. I like to use solo cups. I reuse them every year. I just cut 3 little drainage holes at the bottom. I've been using these for years. And I say that because I hate potting up. That is such a waste of time. A lot of people, 1 second, let me get this other tray. So a lot of people will sow seeds in something like this maybe, or smaller containers, egg cartons, I've seen stuff like that. The issue with that, well, the idea is you're not sure if all your seeds are going to germinate, so you'd rather, sow them densely, get some to germinate, and then pot them up. If you have good quality seed and it's fresh, it's all going to germinate for you. So to me, this is a waste of time, planting things in little containers and then potting them up. You need to be buying good seed from a trusted source. And then you'll be fine. Like, all your seeds are going to germinate for the most part if you have your technique down right. Okay. So I don't do this. I use this for small things like lettuces, herbs, some of the smaller flowers. I'll do rows and rows and rows of them. And that's fine because they are only going to grow for 4 to 6 weeks before they're ready to transplant. This is perfect for that. This is a 72 cell seed tray. You can grow a ton of them. Another use for this is, let's say you want to grow corn or green beans, southern peas, all that kind of stuff. And you direct sow, preferably you want to direct sow the seeds for that outdoors. But sometimes you have critters that like to come in and just chew them right. As soon as they germinate, they'll chew the sprout up, it's gone. If that is an issue for you, you can sow the seeds in one of these, 1 seed per cell. And in 3 weeks time, no more than that, 3 weeks time, you have to plant them. They'll be ready. If you don't, they will get root bound in one of these little things, and your plants are going to be stunted, production is not going to be that great, that kind of thing. So nice idea for those of you that do struggle with the critters. 1 second, guys. The wind blew my stuff around. All right, so back to sowing tomatoes and bigger stuff. So solo cups are great for that. This will house my tomatoes, peppers, eggplants, all of that until they are ready to be transplanted without wasting time potting up. If you're planting things in the brassicas family or squash, cucumbers, things that are kind of medium size, not too small, not too big, you can go ahead and use these 4-inch size containers. That's fine. For those smaller types of crops, that will house them the entire duration while they grow. I'm sure you guys are asking me a ton of things right now, but the sun, I cannot see my phone. So I am so sorry. I will try my hardest to scroll through all your questions at the end of all of this. One thing that I want to stress about seed sowing. This soil right here is sterile seed starting mix. Please, if you can avoid it, please don't use compost or soil dug out from your backyard, your garden, whatever. Those soils are inoculated with a lot of bacteria, pathogens, molds, fungus, all of those things that can attack and kill off your seedlings. So if you have an issue with like dampening off and stuff like that, don't be using compost or anything for your seedlings. You can make your own sterile seed starting mix. I did that for many, many years. Just take a wheelbarrow, mix equal parts of either peat moss or cocoa coir, whatever your preference, with equal parts of vermiculite or perlite, whatever your preference. If you can throw some handfuls of worm castings in there, that's even better. That's a nice, very gentle, all natural, light fertilizer for seedlings. So that's what I did for many years. Works great. But now that I'm a nursery, full-fledged nursery and business and all of that, I have access to buying things in bulk at a pretty good price. So I just buy ProMix brand seed starting mix. It's a big bale, whatever. I use a lot of it. So for me, that's what I am now using in my garden. Let me move this plant here. You can find seed starting mix, you know, at Home Depot or whatever. I usually see them in these little bags and they cost like $8 for this little bag. I mean, if you're only sowing a couple things, sure. But if you're sowing a lot of things, it's better to mix your own or just buy in bulk if you can. if you can. But I'm sure a lot of you that you wouldn't be able to buy in bulk. So that's the soil and the containers that I recommend you use when you sow seeds. Now let's talk about lighting. Like I had mentioned earlier, most likely the conditions outside are kind of extreme, and you're going to be sowing indoors or maybe in a covered patio. There's not enough light for your plants, so they need light. If your seedlings, as soon as your seedlings germinate, they need light, or they're going to start getting leggy, which means the stems are kind of reaching towards a light source and they get very long and thin and weak. That will translate into weak transplants. So you're starting your garden off with weak, kind of unhealthy plants. You know, it's just not the greatest. If you want good production, you want health, vigor, all of that, you want to start off with the healthiest plants as possible. So lighting is very important. And this is what I tell everyone. Whatever crop you're growing, what does its mature plant require? For tomatoes, they require full sun, 8 hours or more per day. So does their seedlings. And I guarantee you, if you put this by a big bright window in your house, it is not going to give those tomato seedlings 8 hours of sun or more direct. So that's where you have to supplement some kind of a light source. For many, many years, I used shop lights. So these are shop lights right here. I think they were like 20 bucks from Walmart or Harbor Freight. You can get them on Amazon too. These are LEDs. Just make sure that you get 5,000 Kelvin or higher for the daylight range shop lights. The brighter, the better. But these were 5,000 Kelvins. And I just attached them to my setup here with some zip ties. So very easy and not too expensive. You want to maintain your grow light about, I don't know, 4 inches or so from the top of your seedlings. As they grow taller, you have to adjust this and keep it going. Another common question I get is how often and when do I turn these on and off? I turn my grow lights on when I wake up in the morning, and I turn them off in the evening time when it starts getting dark. Definitely do not leave them on 24 hours. You will burn your plants. They get sunburned, they get sun scald on their leaves, that kind of thing. So, you know, just mimic what would occur outdoors, you know, how much sunlight this plant would get anyways. So shop lights, for a shelving unit like this, I put 2 of them side by side to make sure that there's even and enough lighting all the way through. Recently though, starting last fall, I finally got like an official grow light. This is a Mars Hydro 3x3 grow light. I just wanted to test it out. I honestly, I didn't believe this would make that much of a difference. And I was super impressed. I'm not sponsored by anyone, none of that. I bought this with my own money. When I use these grow lights to grow my tomato seedlings, they were ready to go transplant size in 6 to 8 weeks. When I use shop lights, it takes longer. It takes 10-ish weeks, something like that. So, and my plants were so much more, just thicker, a lot more leaves. The stems were thicker, just amazingly healthy. You will see a big difference. And this is also really helpful if you're late starting your seeds and you need to hurry up and start some and get them to grow as fast as possible. Grow lights will help you a little bit with that. So I am slowly transitioning to all of these grow lights. Normally I think they're like 120 bucks for one of these on Amazon. They're on sale right now for 30 bucks off, something like that. So I've been buying them up little by little. People give them to me as Christmas gifts, stuff like that. Is it necessary? No. You can grow with, these shop light things. So yeah, that's my whole spiel with lighting. Don't really have anything else to say. Watering. Another thing with watering your seedlings. People ask me, how do I water all these seedlings? Well, let me break it down. Let me get my hose attachment, 1 second. All right, so I have a screen porch. If I'm growing them in the shelving units on my screen porch, just like this, I use a hose attachment like this because my porch, the floor is cement. It doesn't matter if it gets wet. I just bring my hose in there and gently spray all my seedlings. This is a gentle rain kind of a hose end sprayer. Very gentle because you don't want to mix up, splash out the soil and, all the seeds come out and that kind of thing. The best way to water your plants is not overhead, because if the leaves are wet, that causes more incidence of diseases and stuff like that. So you always want to avoid that. That's where these 10 by 20 trays come into play. They sell two different kinds, one with and one without holes. I pretty much just use the ones without any holes, so I could fill this up. I bring my sprayer, fill it up with water, and then they start absorbing the water from the bottom up, and that is the best way to do it. If you're growing this indoors, now you can't go in with your hose and spray everything. Again, these trays are kind of important because at least you can slide them out real easy and carry a whole bunch of them outside at once if you need to water, fertilize, that kind of thing. So it just makes it a lot easier on you. And as soon as your seedlings germinate, a lot of people will ask, like, how important is fertilizing? Just so you guys know, I'm also kind of close to the airport, so there's a big plane right now. But fertilizing seedlings is super important if you want to get, again, the most healthy, vigorous seedlings for your garden. But you have to be real careful with what you use. Let me get the product that I like to use, 1 second. All right. Let me just grab a whole bunch of different things here. So as soon as things germinate and they grow their first set of true leaves, that's when you can start fertilizing. And that's the case for all crops, no matter what you're growing. Usually the first set of 2 leaves that they will grow out are called cotyledons. It's just something the plant hurries up to put out so it can start photosynthesizing by, harvesting the energy from the sun. The next set of leaves now will look like, a tomato leaf, a pepper plant leaf, or whatever you're growing. That's when you want to start fertilizing. For that, you have to use a liquid fertilizer, because if you use a granular type of product for your seedlings, it takes a couple weeks for granular stuff to break down and release their nutrients into the soil, which is not what you want for seedlings. You want these to get that hit of fertilizer, start growing right away. So you got to use something liquid. For many years, I would use stuff like fish emulsion. Fish emulsion has a very small amount of nitrogen. You're talking about 5% by weight, usually is kind of standard for that kind of thing. Very weak. You're not going to get very much results from that. I'm just telling you how it is. You can use it, sure. Is it good stuff? It's good for the plants, yes. But something else, a different kind of liquid fertilizer, you're going to get a lot more vigorous growth and stuff out of it. So I really like Fox Farms Grow Big. This is technically considered synthetic, I believe. And it's not just nitrogen. It has phosphorus and potassium as well. Your seedlings kind of need a little bit of everything to really start, growing their root systems, their stems, their leaves, all of that. And this product has directions for mixing for feeding seedlings specifically. So if your fertilizer of choice has that, great. If it doesn't, then whatever the normal general feeding direction is, mix it at half strength. So let's say, I'm just gonna throw an example out there, you're using Miracle Grow, and it says put 1 tablespoon per gallon of water. For your seedlings, you're gonna mix half a tablespoon per gallon of water. So fertilizing is super important. When you're fertilizing at low levels like that, you can do it weekly, 7 to 10 days intervals, to keep the nutrients consistent and keep your seedlings thriving and really taking off and growing. Now, that's pretty much all you need to start whatever you want to grow, whatever seeds for whatever crop you want to grow. Some kind of a setup like this if you can. If you absolutely do not have space indoors, a patio, nothing, at the very least, you can put them outdoors, cover them though. Like if it's gonna rain, you got to cover them. I just don't like rainwater hitting my plants at this stage. It's introducing them to a host of bacteria and stuff like that, pathogens, whatever. And it can cause a lot of issues with your seedlings. So the information I'm giving you, this is how I do it. And I'm telling you why I'm choosing to use these products, but you don't have to use the same ones. Okay, the concept, take the concepts, why, and just find whatever products help you meet those requirements or do the same thing, basically. So get creative. You don't have to use exactly these things. Now let's do a little bit of troubleshooting. Let's say your seedlings, you notice they get powdery mildew, they're getting spots, whatever the heck's going on. If it's a disease that proliferates on the surface of the leaves, I just spray with 1 cup of hydrogen peroxide per gallon of water. I use one of those pump sprayers with a very gentle like misting spray, and this will kill a lot of pathogens. Like, this is the only thing I use in my entire garden for all leaf diseases. I believe it is considered organic, and yeah, this stuff is great. Okay, so this is what I would use to treat for that if something's happening to your seedlings. Now let's say your seedlings are getting munched on by some sort of worm or caterpillar. Very commonly happens when I grow anything in the squash, zucchini, melon family, cucumbers. Use BT spray. And the email that I said I would send out after the class with the resources, the list of everything mentioned, I will have links to all this stuff or whatever, so you can see what I'm talking about. But I use BT for any kind of worm or caterpillar damage. If you are sowing seeds, whether it be direct sown into your garden or in containers, whatever, for melons, cucumbers, squash, I don't know about you, but here in Florida, I get the worms every single time. There's no such thing as growing those crops without fighting the worms. So BT is great for that. If you are struggling with a soft-bodied insect like aphids or whitefly, or extra tough worms, the most toughest worms that I've ever seen are the corn earworm that attack corn, and tomato hornworms. Those things are nasty. Then switch to spinosad. That stuff has the added benefit of killing the worms on contact or soft-bodied insects on contact. BT, for this to work, it is considered organic, so is spinosad. But for this to work, it has to be ingested. So the worms, whatever, have to chew the leaves that have been sprayed with this product for it to work and like kill them. Spinosad does work in a similar way. It gets ingested, but it also has, I don't know, added chemicals, compounds, whatever, that also kill on contact. So it's kind of more broad spectrum. Whatever you are spraying, even if it's hydrogen peroxide, whatever, please don't spray your garden unless it's the evening time when all the pollinators have left for the day. When you spray in the evening, it gives it a chance to dry before morning arrives. I haven't noticed issues with bees, none of that stuff. I'm just saying because I always get comments like that. This stuff is very safe to use if you use it in that manner. Don't spray flowers with this stuff, and only spray the affected crops. Don't go spraying your entire garden. So be careful no matter what you're using, even if it's organic. But this is it. That's the only things that I use in my garden. So I think I've covered pretty much everything. Let me look at my notes really quick. Let me grab them. I'm a very organized kind of person, and you know, whenever I'm doing a class or a video even, I have kind of an outline because I really hate missing some type of information that I wanted to convey or some kind of comment. So, okay, so we're going to sit back down and I'm going to show you how I sow the seeds, just in case there's some questions about that. Okay, yeah, let's move on to that. And that's pretty much the last bit of this class. So I'm going to use a couple examples of actual seeds, and we'll talk a little bit about sowing the seeds. So 1 second while I switch the camera back to the table over here. All right, guys. And now I can see my phone a lot better now too. All right, now it's significantly darker, but okay. So how to sow seeds, or know like how deep to sow your seeds, that kind of thing, because it does differ according to what you're trying to grow. Another airplane, sorry. You guys have no idea how hard it is to make YouTube videos when you live near the airport. I'm constantly pausing and just like waiting in my videos until the planes pass. But let's pretend we're sowing seeds for something like a tomato. This is the Polish beefsteak. The first time I grew this was this last season. Best tasting tomato I've ever had. No joke, no joke. This one, all right? Which says a lot because I grow hundreds, okay? Best tasting tomato I've ever had. Polish beefsteak. I do have some seeds on my website. Not a lot of them, but I have some. But anyways, tomatoes or anything kind of that size, like eggplants, peppers, that kind of thing. General rule of thumb is you want to sow the seeds twice as deep as the size of the seed. So this is not a big seed. You don't want to cover this with too much dirt. The other rule you should know about is that there are some seeds that require light to germinate. And when that happens, absolutely do not cover them with any soil. You just gently press them down onto the surface of the soil just so it makes contact and kind of gets stuck there. And then put it under some direct light. It needs that light to initiate that germination. How do you know that you're growing something that requires light to germinate? It should be said in the directions wherever you're buying your seeds from, because that's kind of really important to know. And certain things that are like that would be chamomile. I have a packet of chamomile seeds here, super, super tiny, little tiny seeds. Another example are ground cherries and a lot of wildflowers, because if you think about it, wildflowers in nature, in their natural environment, they just kind of spread their seeds everywhere. No one's planting them into the soil. A lot of them are sitting on the surface of the soil and they germinate, and that's kind of how they evolved, so to speak. So an example of a wildflower like that would be Tithonia or Mexican sunflower. Also requires light to germinate. But here's the chamomile seeds. As you can see, those are super, super tiny. So those kinds of things, it's really noisy. There's literally a road behind me, so on top of the airplanes, I have to fight the cars too. But one day I will move out into the country in the middle of nowhere where it's quiet. That is the goal. And then I'll have a full-fledged nursery. You all can come visit me. I get this asked all the time. Can you come to my house, tour my garden, pick up your orders, seeds of plants and that? I can't. This is my private home. I promised my husband I wouldn't do that. Just to respect the privacy of my family. And I'm also in an HOA community. The last thing I want is a neighbor to complain or attract the attention of the HOA in some way. I'm surprised, quite honestly, I'm surprised by all the stuff I get away with in my backyard. So I consider myself very lucky, and I just don't want to anger them in any way. So that is the reason why, unfortunately, I say I can't. I'm not open to the public. But one day I do hope to move, buy land, have a whole garden, nursery, host classes there, that whole thing. One day, hopefully. So yeah, back to my tomato seeds. When it comes to tomatoes, peppers, eggplants, I like to sow 2 seeds. Again, if you have good quality seed, well, at least one of them are going to germinate. Like, there's no doubt in my mind, at least one of them are going to germinate. So you take your little 2 tomato seeds in your solo cup and you put one on either end and just barely bury it with a tiny bit of soil. And if both of them germinate, I do plant both of them in the planting hole. I don't thin them out, none of that. I'm not wasting seed. They're fine. And the reason why my tomatoes, if I have 2 of them growing in the same planting hole, they're okay, is because I have a pretty good fertilizer regimen with my tomatoes. They are not lacking nutrients, none of that kind of stuff when that happens. I do have a YouTube video that I posted just a few weeks ago on my tomato fertilizer schedule. I even have a PDF checklist where you write dates so that you know I need to fertilize with this, that, this, you know, whatever, to keep you on track. So that video was maybe 4 videos back, 4 weeks ago, something like that. And by far, this was the best tomato season I've ever had. Very productive because of the use of those grow lights. Helped me get the biggest, healthiest, most beautiful transplants. And that fertilizer, just tweaking my normal schedule and doing like I did in the video. Awesome tomato growing season for me. So that's how you would sow seeds for the tomatoes, peppers, eggplants. Loofah and moringa, stuff like that, they're big crops. You can get away with 1 seed. That's fine. They're really big. When sowing seeds for brassicas, I like to put 3 in here. Brassicas are a little iffy, a little bit difficult. I mean, they germinate fast though, like in 3 days, but I don't know, they're 3 is a good number to make sure you get at least 1 plant. And brassicas, broccoli, cauliflower, kale, they do not like to be crammed together. I have noticed production decrease. For example, when I grow broccoli, if I plant them 1 foot apart, which is square foot gardening guidelines say to plant them 1 foot apart. I just noticed the plants are smaller. The harvest of the heads that it produces are also smaller. When I plant them 2 feet apart, they're much bigger. And I have some videos of the brassicas. I have one on broccoli and on cauliflower earlier from this year when I harvested them, growing them a little bit separated. Much better, much better. So when these 3 sprout, if all 3 sprout, I will thin this down to 1 plant, okay? But I would put 3 equal distance apart from each other in one of these. If you're sowing seeds for cucumbers, squash, that kind of thing, 3 seeds is also pretty good. And you can plant the whole thing in there because cucumbers don't have very big root systems and the plants don't survive a long time. You're not going to, like my tomatoes, if I plant them in September, like I've been telling you guys, Labor Day weekend usually is the last time for me to get them in. They will grow for me my entire fall, winter, and spring. They finally start dying off in June when it just gets way too hot. That is like 9 months of growing time. So they are fine, you know, as they are, even with the 2 because of fertilizing and that kind of thing. Cucumbers don't last that long. Try as you will. They are a crop where once they set their fruit, produce, you might get production 2-3 weeks out of them. Then they start really declining off. And that's it. Like the plant's done. You're not going to get more out of it. Tomatoes keep going. They'll flower, produce, you harvest. They might look like they aren't growing, aren't doing much, but then in a couple weeks they start putting on new growth, another flush of fruit, and that continues basically. So the types of crops that are not like the tomatoes, they put on a harvest, they're pretty much done. They don't require a lot of space. You can really cram those kinds of things in. Another example is beans, yard-long beans, that kind of stuff. They produce, once they start producing over the course of maybe 3, maybe 4 weeks, depends what kind of bean you're growing, and then that's pretty much it. Sometimes they will flush again a second crop, but that second crop is not as good and productive as the first crop. But then that's it. Like that's it. They're done. You're not going to get any more out of them. So all of those things can be planted closer together without any effect really on anything. So that is pretty much, let me see if I've hit all the different kinds of things. Flowers, herbs, all of that. Let me grab my 72 cell seed tray. I had mentioned it earlier. This is the best thing for that. Usually herbs and flowers, you kind of want a lot of them in your garden. You're probably growing lots of different kinds of herbs, lots of different flowers. So this is the way to go with those. You can sow seed for a lot of them at one time. So yeah, I will literally sow rows and rows and rows and rows of them in here. But yeah, so in August, I already stated cucumbers, flowers, direct sow your seeds for corn, beans, squash. Do your herbs in the trays, 72 cells. Brassicas, do them in this. September is when I will sow seeds for the smaller greens. Greens do not like the heat. So I'm talking lettuce, tatsoi, spinach, Swiss chard, bok choy, arugula, radicchio, like all those greens, all those things that you grow just to eat the leaves, greens, they do not like the heat. So I will also sow those in a 72 cell seed tray indoors, like the brassicas, and that way I grow a lot of them. A lot, right? Usually with lettuce, you want a lot of lettuce. So you're going to be growing out a bunch of them anyways. This is good for those types of things. And September is when I start direct sowing seeds for carrots, but it has to be the heat tolerant types only. So that would be something like Corota or the dark colored types of carrots. There's some that are purple, black, that kind of thing. Any kind of fruit or veggie that is dark colored because of anthracysins and that kind of thing. I have a theory that they are way more heat tolerant than their regular counterparts. So like the cosmic purple carrot is going to be a little bit more heat tolerant than a regular orange carrot. So in September, I plant just those kinds of carrots, the dark colors. In October, I will direct sow the seeds for all the regular ones now. So that's kind of how I look at that. And then lastly, in October, this is the month where I will direct sow cool season crops. It is finally cooled down enough. I could direct sow this stuff outdoors. They're not going to get stunted in growth, none of that kind of stuff. That would include all of the greens. So if you didn't want to go this route, sow all your lettuce and greens and these kinds of things, you'd rather direct sow, wait until the temperatures drop a little bit. For me, that occurs in October. So the very first week of October, I'm out here direct sowing seeds for all of those greens, radishes, beets, turnips, and again, regular carrots if I want to grow some more of those. So that's kind of my game plan for the upcoming months, preparing to grow as much as possible during the fall. Of course, I'm zone 10A. My first winter frost date is the very last week of December. I know not all of you, that's not the case. So I tell you that so you can kind of gauge how you need to adjust your timing. For example, if you're zone 9B, I'm 10A, so you're just one little half zone ahead of me, so to speak. You're pretty much like a week and a half, or maybe two ahead of me, that kind of thing. So you guys can adjust accordingly there. So anyways, I can see that the chat has definitely been going. I'm going to assume there's no way I'm going to be able to scroll back through the whole chat to answer all your questions. This has probably been the most busiest class I've ever done so far. So I'm going to open it up to you guys. Actually, let me go sit in my garden. I want to show you guys the section that I solarized to give you guys ideas about that. And then I can get closer to my phone and read your comments and be able to answer stuff. So 1 second while we move here. And then my dog, of course, is going to want to sit on my lap, I'm sure. But anyways, let me find a shady spot here in my garden. So this is half of my garden here. Man, I wish the sun was not the angle that it is. It's not good for video. I'm going to drop this down a little bit. Well, let me show you first. All of this is being solarized here, all this section. This is where I grew a lot of my tomatoes last year, and I decided to solarize to clean the soil because tomatoes they attract a lot of pathogens and stuff on their leaves. The leaf debris drops to the soil, and then now it's growing and spreading in the soil, or the spores and stuff are dormant basically in the soil, just waiting for a host plant to arrive, and then they infect it and then spread it in your garden. So tomatoes attract a lot of diseases, a lot of pests. I did this last year for the first time. before I planted last year's tomatoes, and I did not lose one single tomato to tomato wilt virus or any of that stuff. So it works. I am using DeWitt Sunbelt brand weed blocker material. This year, it depends, but I'm really thinking of not removing this in the fall time. And I'm gonna put rows and rows of grow bags and grow my tomatoes in the grow bags. And the reason for that is because the year prior, I'm gonna drop this now, I got hit by quite a few hurricanes and this entire section flooded badly, and all my tomatoes died because it was just too wet. It couldn't dry out, it was just way too wet. I have now decided when I'm growing a fall crop of tomatoes to plant them in grow bags or at the very least a raised garden bed. So if I do get hit by a hurricane and get flooded out, whatever, they're fine. All the rest of my crops survived that. They were fine. It's just tomatoes. If their roots stay wet for a long time, not good. Not good, they will die. Okay, so I said I was gonna answer your questions. I'm so sorry, guys, if you were asking me things. I did not look at this, not even one time. I just got on with it with this class. So I had mentioned earlier, if I miss your question and you really need an answer, please feel free to email me. If you send me a message on one of my social media accounts or whatever, I'm probably gonna miss it. I just get way too many. I scrolled up a tiny bit to catch up a little bit with some of these questions, but I know I'm missing a bunch. But anyways, someone asked, I need to plant dill and can't find any at Home Depot or Lowe's. Do you have any? Yes, I have mammoth dill seeds on my website. That thing will grow to 6 foot tall. So if you love dill, that is the variety that I recommend. Could I do a round of yard-long beans if I planted the seeds like tomorrow in Florida 10A? Yes, you're like me. We're in the same zone. Yeah, go ahead. You can plant direct sow seeds for yard-long beans. I would say the last chance is August, just to make sure you harvest everything out before it starts cooling down a lot. Because I have tried planting them later, like in September and stuff, and they feel the cold. I don't know how plants know. Plants are very temperature sensitive, more than maybe you realize. They just know, oh, this is fall. This is not our growing season, and they just decline. They don't do well. So yes, if you're in zone 10A, 10B, 11, all of you people, you can do another round of yard-long beans right now if you direct sow. And yeah, Thai soldier long beans, another option that you could still be direct sowing right now. Sorry, I'm scrolling through trying to find your questions. What flowers do you have growing? I have a lot of flowers, basically any kind of flower, well, heat tolerant flowers right now for the summer. So right behind me, all these orange flowers are here. That's Tithonia. A lot of the flowers in my garden at this point, because this garden, I've been living here for 7 or 8 years. A lot of things reseed at this point because I've grown. I mean, I grow everything so densely. There's so much going on. They drop seeds everywhere. All of that Tithonia reseeded itself. All these zinnias here reseeded themselves. Back there, I have a lot of marigolds reseeded. Cleome reseeds, like a lot of things for me reseed. And I have a saying, if it reseeds in my garden, that means it was so happy growing there that it decided to reseed, and I'm completely fine with leaving that plant there. So this Tithonia is actually, this is my asparagus bed, but I don't want to cut it down because that attracts so many butterflies and stuff to the garden. But any of the heat tolerant things are good. You could direct sow seeds right now. Moving into fall, there's some flowers that do not like the extreme heat, like nasturtiums and hollyhock. I kind of say if it's like a cottage fairy garden type of flower, like foxgloves and stuff like that, they don't like the extreme heat. So I have better success when I grow those things during my fall, winter, and spring. Usually when summer comes, the heat just kills them off, but that's how it goes. Dahlias is another one, an example of those. Sorry guys, scrolling through to the next question. So sorry guys, I know there's so many here, but BT is less harmful than spinosad. Yes, just because BT, in order for it to be effective, the insect has to chew it. So, for example, bees don't chew stuff. Okay, butterflies don't chew stuff. So BT really is only going to work against caterpillars and worms that would chew the leaf and therefore ingest it. Spinosad does kill on contact though. So if you get spinosad on a bee, you will kill the bee. That's why I said make sure you only spray in the evening once the bees have left for the day. Your Barbados cherry is flowering but no fruits. You gotta wait. Fruit trees will flower and produce when they feel ready. They're mature enough to support fruit production. They might flower, but all the flowers drop, that kind of thing. You gotta wait. My Barbados cherry tree was at least like 8 foot tall before it started producing for me. And then after that, forget it. Like, it's producing right now. Like, I love my Barbados cherry tree. You just gotta wait. Somebody's asking, I said something about a growing sheet. How can you get it? I have a lot of lists. I've been creating myself. I create this stuff myself, like PDF printables for you guys to help keep you on track. So I've been trying to make one for every month. So I do a garden guide video every single month on my YouTube channel that goes through all the crops and ideas. So I have a free PDF printable list that accompanies that. So you just check it off, make sure you're planting things. I have a tomato fertilizer schedule sheet. To get those things, you can find them in the descriptions of those videos, or you can also go to my website. Usually for every video I do, I have some sort of a blog post that accompanies that as well. Some people like the text version of things, so they could copy, paste, print, whatever you want to do with it. So usually on those, I will also link to other resources like my printable checklists and stuff like that. If you are part of my email group, I automatically send an email at the beginning of every month with the new video for the garden guide along with the checklist. I started doing that for July. I was like, I should put the checklist on here so that the people that are subscribed to my email group automatically get this stuff. So it's all over the place. You gotta look. And yeah, check your spam because, I'm sure my emails sometimes go to spam. I'm sorry, scrolling through, trying to find questions. I grow Thai soldier beans in grow bags. Should I fertilize them at any time? No, you do not need to fertilize beans. Whether that be yard-long beans, cow peas, southern peas, black-eyed peas, Thai soldier, green beans, bush beans, pole beans. They are nitrogen fixers, which means that their root systems actually pull nitrogen from the air and affix it into the soil. So if you fertilize them with more nitrogen, you risk over-fertilizing them with nitrogen, which causes them to produce lots of leafy green growth instead of flowers. So in general, do not fertilize those kinds of crops. Only though at the very beginning when you're direct sowing seed, there's certain farmers and research that says they feel this helped the plants get off to a good start and they got more production, but don't fertilize again. So usually when I'm planting those kinds of crops, I'll make a hole or like a trench. I'll sprinkle a whole bunch of seeds in there because you can really cram them close. And I will also sprinkle in some general all-purpose organic fertilizer like Espoma or Garden Tone. And that's the only time I will fertilize it. So if you didn't do it at that moment, don't continue to don't fertilize them now. How do I prep green stalks for hurricanes? Very good question. I don't know yet. I just got my green stalks like Christmas time. I was gifted them and all that. No. Before that, because I planted one with strawberries and that was like in October or something like that. And then I got more for Christmas and my birthday and all that. So I ended up with 6 now. I have not gone through a hurricane with them yet. I did put a post out there asking people for like their ideas, and a lot of people replied with some good things, like tying them to T-posts, like put T-posts on either side, and using like bungee cord and kind of like locking it down. Someone even takes a bungee cord and it goes over the top and then anchor it down. the ground next to it. Some people just move the entire unit like next to the house or something to kind of break the wind from causing them to fall. Make sure that they are level, because if they're uneven, that'll cause them to fall over. Making sure that they are well watered, so they're just heavier, also helps. With a hurricane, you're going to get a lot of water. They're going to get heavy. So, but I have not gone through a hurricane yet. I'm in Central Florida, so usually I'm not saying they don't get bad. Here we get a lot of rain, and that causes a lot of flooding. But usually by the time it comes through the middle of the state, it's weakened a decent amount. So I've been through some bad hurricanes, like 2004. If you lived here in Central Florida, you know what I mean. That was the worst I've ever seen it. You people on the coast, I don't know how you do it. I will never live on the coast because I don't want to worry about all that every single year. So if you guys have great ideas, please comment when this video goes live to kind of share that information with some of the other viewers. Someone saying that they transplanted or repotted up their Barbados cherry and it looks wilty. I would say it's either getting way too hot, it's going through transplant shock. Don't overwater as well. This goes with anything. Like the number one thing that causes stuff to like wilt and the leaves to get like yellow is overwatering. So I would check that first. Just because a plant is wilting doesn't mean it needs water though. It could be the heat. So here in the afternoon, everything's wilting. That doesn't mean my soil doesn't have moisture. It rains here as well, almost every day, every other day, something like that. My dog keeps moving around, okay? There is water there. It's just it's so hot the plant is stressed out and it's wilting. So if your plants don't recover by evening, see now they all look great. They're all back up, whatever. But if yours are still wilting by evening time, that means it actually does need water. And I get asked this all the time. How often do I water? How often do I run my drip irrigation? I never share my schedule because the schedule is completely tailored and customized to your garden, your growing conditions, your soil, the plants you're growing, all of that. So whatever I do is most likely not going to work for you. What you need to do, quite honestly, is just start getting more experience with your soil. Check it. You know, it's good to let the soil dry out a little bit before you add more water. Stick your finger in there. If the soil is dry to that second nickel, it could probably use some water. But if it's not, don't water. So you got to get used to, I guess, identifying how quickly your soil dries out so that you know actually when you need to water. At this point in my life, I've been gardening my whole life since I was a little kid. I can look at a plant and be like, oh yeah, that needs the soil's dry, you know, whatever. But it just takes time, and you have to learn your garden and your soil. Don't ever just copy someone else's schedule. Can you tell us how you rotate your crops? I got nematodes in one of my beds, so I retired them for the summer and growing summer crops. I want to make sure I properly rotate. Maybe you can do a future video. I have so many videos lined up. I have tons of ideas. I mean, there's always something going on here in my garden. My aunt's property, we also have a garden over there, and we're actually going to expand that one. Huge expansion. She has 2.5 acres. By far that will be the biggest section I've ever cleared out and gutted and started a garden, and I plan on doing a full YouTube video about that entire process. So there's a lot. There's always something happening. I'm just one person though. I don't have a team. I don't have a videographer that comes and films for me. I film it all myself on my phone. I used to be a wedding photographer and videographer way back in the day, so I do have a little experience, you know, with this kind of stuff, but I don't have help. So I try to make as many videos as I possibly can, and I've got a huge list of stuff upcoming, but there's a lot definitely happening right now. But anyways, your question was rotating crops. So that can be very difficult, especially if you have a small garden, because I mean, you don't want to lose out on that precious small amount of gardening space that you do have. So you got to rotate the types of crops. So if I plant tomatoes here, let's say, I'm not going to plant tomatoes in this soil again. I'll plant a totally different kind of crop. Tomatoes belong to the nightshade family. Look at the botanical names. Pick things in totally different like families. So maybe this time plant some beans in there, or some carrots, or something just totally different, and be rotating like that. I surprisingly, I've never had problems with nematodes until last summer. Last summer was the hottest on record, and nematodes love moist, hot, sandy soil. So that's why they say add a lot of organic matter, because then your soil isn't as sandy, and that helps a little bit with nematodes. But kind of once you have them, they're there. Like whether it be in low levels or high levels, they're very hard to get rid of. Add crab meal into the planting hole for everything that you grow. One of my beds got nematodes. So far, I've only noticed them on tomatoes and squash. Not all of my plants, but only so far those two groups. So they really must like tomatoes and squash type stuff. So this year, I did not grow squash during the summer. I plan to save that for fall and winter and spring. My tomatoes, that is why I grew a whole bunch of them in grow bags this time instead of in ground, to kind of give my ground soil a break. So I took one of my beds and I put down this weed blocker material, and then I put grow bags on top of it. That is not to say the nematodes can't transfer. They can. They will get into your pots, your containers, your grow bags, whatever. It's a microscopic worm, I think, or something. So, and it spreads, like they get on your hands, your tools, your plants, like they spread. So just try not to plant the same type of crop in there at the same spot every year. If it gets really bad, shut down, solarize. Another thing too, nematodes eat like roots. They eat roots for so many things, including grass and weeds. So if you shut down a bed, but you have lots of weeds in there because you just left it, they're going to keep eating those weed roots. That's food for them. So you want to smother them out, kind of starve them out, really. So that's why I just shut it down. I put weed blocker material on there. Even with the weed blocker material, I just finished yanking out all my tomatoes from the grow bags, and I could see the very bottom, the roots that hit the very bottom had nematode, the root knot nematode. So they will come through. But at least it can maybe get you, a growing season of tomatoes or something. So this year, that's on the other side of my garden. This year, I planted some in ground here, and I pulled those out, and I didn't see root knot nematodes on them. But just out of precaution, I think I will be putting grow bags over the surface, just putting it on top of this material, and growing my tomatoes in there to kind of give this soil more of a longer break, if that makes any sense. Another thing you might want to consider is cover cropping with a nematocidal type of cover crop, like sundan grass. I think that's what it's called. People say that marigolds help. I don't think marigolds help with nematodes. No, they help ward off worms, for sure. I planted all my tomatoes in here, and I had marigolds all under. I did not get like a single worm, which is shocking, because I don't get tomato hornworms here, but I get army worms. So didn't have worms. So, but I still saw little sections of nematodes on the edges of my garden that stay more wet because of the way the rain falls here. That's getting real detailed, but the soil portions that were more wet and moist, the plants growing in that had some nematodes. The plants more over here that stay more on the dry side didn't. But anyways, you gotta shut them down, stuff, starve them out, rotate. I don't have a PDF with the flowers that I grow for fall and spring specifically yet. That could be something I can make in the future. My blueberry is in a container and they're struggling. Any suggestions? Blueberries are very hard to grow, okay? I had lots of blueberries here because it's one of my favorite fruit. Blueberries require a slightly, I think it's acidic soils. which means pH of like 5-ish, something like that. I measured my pH of my soil here. It's like at 7, and they do not like that. So what happens is if the pH of the soil isn't low enough, it locks the roots of the blueberry plants and they can't uptake nutrients through. So they slowly die off. Like they just never look good for months and months and months and months. And then they finally they die. So you have to make sure you're using the correct kind of soil. That's why a lot of, we have a lot of blueberry farms here in Florida. A lot of times they'll grow them in containers that they fill with soil for acid-loving plants, like rhododendrons and stuff like that, or they'll mix their own kind using a lot of, pine bark? Pine bark is acidic. Or they'll hill them up and put that soil down. They'll also use fertilizers that acidify the soil when you add it. Miracle-Gro has a fertilizer for acid-loving plants that helps a lot. But if you don't maintain that pH where it needs to be, you're not going to be successful ever growing blueberries. So that's the number one thing that I would say. Because it was so difficult and because I didn't want to have tons of containers, because they're pretty big plants too, they're huge. I yanked them out. I was done with them. So I had them here actually. And now I have asparagus growing in there. And yes, you can grow asparagus even in Florida. I'm scrolling through. Which size green stalk do I like for strawberries? The leaf, the smaller one, is perfectly fine for strawberries because they don't have very deep root systems, so the smaller size is best. If you wanted to save seeds for the following year as a backyard grower, how much extra of a crop would you plant for that purpose? I'm sure it's different for each crop. It is very different for each crop because some things produce a lot of seed per individual fruit or vegetable, while others barely any. So it really, really depends. And I'm still struggling with this because I have a pretty small garden. I have to grow enough to eat from and to save seeds out of, to put on my website and all that. So I quite often run out of things on my shop. So you might go there and just see a lot of stuff is sold out because I cannot keep up with it. And that's part of why I'm also doing this massive expansion at my aunt's house, to kind of be able to grow more and be able to offer more seeds and not run out so much. You just got to find that careful balance there. Tomatoes are pretty easy because I can still eat from the tomato while taking the seeds out and drying the seeds, saving them, selling them, that kind of thing. So that's pretty easy, but some other things, not so much. It very well depends on what kind of crop you're growing. Any tips for blueberries? The soil pH, that's the only thing you need to know. Soil pH, and they like full sun. What soil do I use? That's a loaded question because there's so many different scenarios. In this entire section, I use wood chips. I have a video on my YouTube channel all about wood chip gardening. I get a load of free wood chips from Chip Drop like once every year and a half. And we spread it out through everything. So this is heavily composted down, 10 inches or more maybe of composted wood chips by this point. So very rich, perfect, awesome soil. When I'm growing things in a green stock, I'm using Pro Mix brand soils, potting mix. When I'm growing things in raised beds, if I have to get soil to fill a raised bed, or grow bags or containers, to be honest with you guys, I just go to Home Depot. If it's a small project, I go to Home Depot and get the cheapest compost they have. It's a white bag with yellow on it. I forget the name of the brand. Not all Home Depots carry it. Some other stores carry it, like Lowe's. Some people have reported back to me they found it at Lowe's. I just put straight that compost. And I get a lot of comments like, it'll burn your plants. How do you know it doesn't have grays on? Or whatever. I don't know that. If it's a good quality compost brand, then it won't burn your plants because it has been composted the required amount of time to not burn your plants. That's usually unfinished compost that will do that. And as far as gray zone or whatever, that is a legit concern. You don't know, quite honestly, how are you going to know? Even if you order compost from, you know, some bulk company, they probably don't know if it's been contaminated either. I've been very lucky that all those bags of the cheapest compost I can find at Home Depot have not caused any of those problems for me. Everything grows fine in them. I don't mix it with other stuff. It's straight that compost. You might not have that same experience though, depending on the brand you're using, or maybe you just got a bad bag. It sounds like a lot of people have different experiences. If I have a large project, like at some point I had built tons of new raised garden beds, then I will order from a local company, their garden bed blend. It's usually half compost and half, I don't know what's the other half of it, but if that's more economical when I need bulk or a lot of dirt, I will go that route instead of just buying the singular bags at Home Depot. But most of the time I just need a couple bags to fill a grow bag or something, so it's just more convenient to just run into Home Depot and grab one bag or two if I need it. Hold on, I'm scrolling through. Lots of questions about grapes. If you're in the South, we can't grow traditional table grapes because there's a soil borne, it's called Pierce disease, that will kill, it's in our soils here. So it kills regular grapes. But you can grow muscadine grapes, and there's lots of different varieties of muscadines. Right now I'm growing 2 different varieties here at my home. I have a video all about that. You should go check it out. I made wine. I have 2 mature ones. The other ones are still growing. 2 mature muscadine grape vines produced in their 2nd year, so they're not even mature all the way yet, plants. Like 27 or 28 pounds last summer, which I show in that video, the harvest and all that. I made like 27 bottles of muscadine grape wine out of that harvest. Insane. And I have that video done about how I make wine with the muscadine grapes. It took like 4 months, 6 months to do it. So that's a lot of footage that I'm editing through. It's gonna be a while. But just to give you an idea, 2 mature muscadine grape plant vines will give you a ton of wine. Like 27, 25 bottles of wine, all right? So you don't need many of them. They are extremely vigorous growers and producers once mature. They grow fine in our native sandy soil, the heat, all of that. Muscadine grapes are a great choice if you're looking for an easy, edible type of crop or fruiting crop. They just get real big. So plan a big trellis system or something for them. I turned off my irrigation because of the rain. So did I. Don't need it anymore. So I turned it off. Do I ever fertilize my shampoo ginger? Nope. My shampoo ginger plants are very mature, established plants. They don't need fertilizer. Those things grow like weeds for me. I have hundreds. I actually just restocked some shampoo ginger plants on my website. I get asked about them almost every day. They're only available a certain time of the year because they go dormant during the fall and winter. Mine didn't start sprouting this year until like May. So all that time I can't find them. I can't dig them out. It's a lot of work. I can't dig them out to propagate the rhizomes and that. I have to wait for them to sprout, dig them out, propagate, wait for those to sprout into nice little plants that I can put on my website. So I don't fertilize the mature established plants, but as a new little plant, it's good to give it some fertilizer to help it, grow faster, get more established. Just use an all-purpose general fertilizer. I really like organic granular types of fertilizers. Espoma has one, Job's, whatever, and just throw some fertilizer its way every now and then. French marigolds for nematodes. I don't believe it. I don't think it works because I still get nematodes. Even with the marigolds. Nematodes don't like brassicas. Nematodes don't like a certain kind of brassicas, not all of them. Certain kind. It's a particular variety of mustard. I don't remember the name. But if you Google nematode mustard, whatever, it'll come up. There's very specific kind. Not all mustards, not all brassicas. It's a certain kind, supposedly. But I personally have not experimented with that one. I'm scrolling through. Do I empty my grow bags, refresh and refill? I don't. I fill them with compost, straight compost that will over time compost down. I need to add some more soil, whatever, into the grow bag, so I just add some more. But I never dump them out. I mean, I do fertilize the plants while they're, you know, growing in the grow bags and stuff. So the soil isn't going to be depleted. But definitely if you're growing in a container or grow bag and you're not, let's say you're not fertilizing, every time you water, that water flushes right through the soil, through those pots, and flushes those nutrients out. So it's really important that you do fertilize. If you're not fertilizing, you probably are going to have nutrient deficiencies at some point. Putting a tray under my grow bags to help them from drying out. Hold on, guys. My legs are falling asleep. I've been in this position too long. One second, I'm just gonna sit flat on the ground here. Okay. I saw a video or something somewhere. Someone put like a kiddie pool and they put a whole bunch of grow bags in the kiddie pool and then they filled up the kiddie pool with water. That is a great idea. That definitely is a great idea. Or, you know, whatever trays and stuff that you can find, because grow bags, out of all the containers and stuff, different things that I use, they dry out the fastest. It's fabric. They dry out super fast. For me here in Florida, that can be very advantageous. It's a con, but it's advantageous for me because I live in such a wet climate to begin with. So it kind of, it helps itself out, if that makes any sense. So I don't put trays and stuff under mine. They're fine the way they are. Now that it's summer, if we don't get one day of rain, like today it didn't rain, the plants are looking sad because that soil definitely dried out fast. So normally if I don't think it's going to rain that day, I'll wake up, you know, in the morning when I wake up, the first thing I'll do is water the grow bags, because if it doesn't rain that day, they will dry out. Those plants will be real sad by evening time. Once you harvest cabbage, is that it, or will it grow or give a second harvest? Nope. Cabbage is one of those things. When you harvest a head of cabbage, it's not going to produce a side shoot or whatever, like broccoli or cauliflower. Cabbage is pretty much, that's it. You harvest that thing and it's done. My mouse melons have vines, or cucamelons have vines, no fruit, planted May 1st, the 9B zone, Houston. It could be too hot. When temperatures get too hot, it messes up flowering and pollination. So it could just be, if the plant is okay, like looks healthy, I'm sure it's just too hot. It might help if you move it into a spot with some shade or something. But you know, you'll just have to wait for it to cool down. As long as the plant survives, it doesn't get like attacked by pest or something and dies off, it should perk back up by the time things start to cool down in your area. Ow, I got an ant. Things start to cool down in your area, which for Houston, Zone 9B will probably be the beginning, like mid-September maybe is when things cool down. I notice it here the very last week of September. The shift, like in the seasons, it just kind of feels different, so. Oh yes, Greenstock is having a anniversary sale right now. So everything, the normal like Greenstock towers are like $150, but they're like $99 right now. That's a huge discount. And I also have a link. It's in my YouTube videos, probably not on my website, where if you use my link, you get another $10 off. So I'll put that link in the email summary for this class at the end of the class, and the description of this if you guys want to find it. But yeah, I wait for them to have a sale, and then I'll use my 10% or my $10 code too. Where am I from? I'm born and raised here in Florida. My family, my mom's side, my mom is from the Dominican Republic, and all my family that I know is from the Dominican Republic. My dad is American from Pennsylvania, just white American, whatever. I do speak Spanish. I go to the Dominican Republic a lot. I don't know my dad's side of the family, like at all. So I just grew up with my Hispanic side. They, like my grandparents had farmland and stuff like that in the Dominican Republic. So we kind of garden, not here at my home, but at my aunt's property. She's from the Dominican Republic. She likes to garden as well. So I've heavily grew up influenced by them, and the things that they grow. They were always growing something, and I've always been growing stuff too since I was a kid. Growing food specifically, I didn't get into that until like my 20s. When I joined a community garden and just saw like all the food they were growing. That was a great experience. If you're new to this and you can join a community garden, do that first before you break ground at your own home or whatever. Join a community garden. You can ask them, experienced gardeners questions, see what they're doing, taste the food and see the difference between fresh, homegrown, just harvested food. That whole experience for me was very has impacted my life forever. Before that, I collected flowers. I had a huge, massive flower garden just as a teenager and as a kid, just always growing flowers from seed. But that community garden, actually, I lived in Texas for 3 years, Galveston, Texas, and it was the San Jacinto Community Garden in Galveston, Texas that I was a part of. And they're still there to this day. I don't know if they know the impact that they've had on my life, because ever since then I've been addicted to growing food. But anyways, but I am born and raised here in Florida. I do go to the Dominican Republic every so often. But yeah, that's me. Timberline is the brand with the yellow and white compost bags at Home Depot that I like. Yes, that is exactly right. Thank you for that. What is the best type of strawberries to grow in Orlando, and where do you recommend buying starts? So we, in Florida, strawberries is a huge, massive industry, okay? But we can only grow them during the fall, winter, and spring. So all the strawberry farms and all them, they start planting, and you should too as a home gardener. Like in October is when you want to get the crowns, not seeds, don't grow them from seeds, crowns into the ground. And I have a YouTube video all about this too. You want to get your crowns planted like in October, ideally. What kind? You want to get there's a specific kind, because there's different kinds. The video explains it. There's a kind that grows better in the south. I think it's short day or neutral day neutrals, something like that. That video will explain it. That grows best for us here in Florida. If you're in the north growing strawberries, June bearing or ever bearing types are the best for you. They flower and produce during the summer, which is your growing season. For us, our growing season is the winter time. So we need strawberry varieties that will grow and produce during the winter, and it's all daylight sensitive type stuff. So watch that video. It'll definitely tell you. And normally around that time, September, October, you'll start noticing all the Florida nurseries, including myself. If I get some crowns from the farms, I don't grow that myself here. I go get crowns in bulk from the farms and then make them available on my website too, like good, big, nice, healthy ones. That all happens like September, October. You'll start seeing a lot of the nurseries and people, they'll either take like pre-orders, stuff like that for strawberries. I don't do pre-orders because I like to have the items. I don't know, that scares me to take all these pre-orders and I'm not get enough item, because the strawberry crowns are not guaranteed. Like, I don't know, you don't know how much the farms will have that year. And like one year was a shortage. So I will try to get crowns and probably around October. So make sure you're subscribed to my email group. I will definitely send a notice out through that way. To let everyone know that the strawberry crowns are back in stock if I actually get some from the farm. I have to drive all the way to Plant City to go get them, because that's like the huge strawberry growing area for Florida. So they have the strawberry festival there every year too. But yeah, if I can acquire some, I will go get them and I'll let you all know through the email. What are your thoughts on self-wicking garden beds? Awesome. That's awesome. That automatic watering for you, and it will self-wicking anything is great. Okay. I personally don't have that going on out here. I did just get a self-wicking tomato tower for indoor growing, because if I can grow myself some tomatoes during the summer, I would be so happy. So I am trialing that out right now, just one, to see how it works. But self-wicking things are great. I'm sorry, scrolling through. I don't know how many comments and stuff you guys put in here. There's a lot. Someone's asking, your citrus, they're starting to bloom now. Should you keep them in a pot or plant them in the ground? Citrus, most citrus grow very well in containers. It's not something you have to put in the ground, but you want to make sure they have a big enough container, because of that root system. If it's small and that root system gets root bound like that, that's going to cause a lot of issues. But if it's in a big enough container, it's not root bound, it's doing well, just leave it. It's fine. Do I know where you can get pepino melon seeds? I actually don't know. I think I know what the pepino melon is, but I don't have them personally. Just Google it. If a lot of times, if you're looking for rare, unusual, obscure, not common seeds for stuff, quite honestly, Etsy, and people will hate on Etsy for buying seeds and stuff, but quite honestly, a lot of these obscure things are grown, only maintained and grown by small backyard gardeners like me. I have a lot of obscure stuff like that. If I didn't grow it myself, like, you're not gonna find it. So there's a lot of backyard little home gardeners that grow things that are very hard to find. Like these bigger seed companies, they're only going to grow the common stuff. They don't care about these rare, unusual, weird things from other countries, whatever. They're not going to grow that. So try Etsy and just Google it and see if you can find some. What size grow bags do I suggest? It depends on what you're growing. If it's a big crop like a tomato, the bigger bag, like a beefsteak tomato, the bigger the bag, the better. I would say at least 15 gallons or more. Everything else, pretty much a 10-gallon is pretty standard and good. But again, it depends what you're growing. What type of garlic bulbs can you grow in 10A, 9B in West Coast Florida? If you are a southern gardener, mild winters, no snow, where you grow, well, your state's season, your area season for growing garlic and that kind of stuff is fall, winter, and spring. It is recommended that you choose soft neck varieties. They tend to grow much better and easier, or elephant garlic. In the south, if you're a northern gardener, you're going to choose the hard neck. But there's techniques you could use to get away with trying to grow hard necks in a southern hot climate. And I actually have a YouTube video all about that when I planted my garlic last fall. Now, my garlic was growing next to my ground cherries crop, like all over. And my ground cherries grew really big and covered all of my garlic plants. And I didn't even realize it. And I come out to check up on them, and there was all kinds of pests, mealy bugs, these beetles, I forget what kind they were chewing up everything in that whole bed because of the ground cherries. And the ground cherries, I don't know how to explain this, trapped over the garlic bulbs, caused the situation to be really moist and wet, and they basically all rotted. I think I might only have a couple elephant garlic that remained, that made it through that. Real big bummer, because I made a whole video and planted this beautiful garlic bed over there. But if anything, this just shows you that I am not an expert, and you will never be an expert. No one can ever be an expert at gardening. Things are always going to die. I learn from that. Now I know this time I definitely plan this fall to grow garlic. It is possible even in Florida. But I'm going to do totally different bed, good airflow, make sure nothing's covering over it and that kind of thing. So, you know, you're going to fail. Don't let that discourage you. It happens to everybody. Scrolling through. Garlic Gods. Someone said they pre-ordered garlic with Garlic Gods. I have not heard of that company yet. Sounds really cool. Last year I had pre-ordered my garlic from Practical Plants. If you're in Florida, please look them up. And also look up Cody Co Farms. Those two, they're also local nurseries. They're kind of close to me, within like an hour out from me, actually, in Orlando. But they have, both of those companies, those nurseries have really unique, hard to find stuff. They're very knowledgeable, but I believe at this time they only ship within the state of Florida. But I did get my garlic last year. I pre-ordered it with Practical Plants. He has an Instagram, and I think a TikTok and a website. But he did announce just recently that he is most likely going to be doing garlic pre-orders again. I think he did that like in August or September of last year, so it might be around the same time. But they arrived, they looked great. They were beautiful, healthy, had all that potential in there, but I just planted them in a bad spot. So what a waste. But that's where I will definitely be getting more garlic from this year. But if you're not in Florida, just Google it. There are so many companies that have seed garlic. Just make sure you place your orders early because they sell out very quickly. So, do I have any cucumbers going right now? I just finished harvesting Indian snake cucumbers, which I absolutely love, and I did a video about that. More to come because I'm still editing these things. That Indian snake cucumber by far is the number one. I think I might have a couple seed packets remaining on my website. They sold out like this, or like they're selling fast because it's kind of a rare, unusual thing. Oh my goodness. My dog just pulled out, well, at least it was a dying branch of Thai basil. So it wasn't a living branch. Sure, you can go play with that over there. I guess he's my garden helper, right? At least he's pulling out the dead stuff. But that cucumber, the Indian snake cucumber, produced for me even in the middle of June, July, all that, whatever. So fantastic variety. The Asian cucumbers also do very well, but I planted a whole bunch of that and harvested that out first. So I don't have any growing right now. I do plan on direct sowing more seeds right now for the Indian snake cucumber. And the Asian ones like China Jade and Soyu Nishiki, like those Asian ones that do very well, or they tolerate the heat and stuff a lot better than traditional fresh eating market cucumbers. I plan on direct sowing seeds for those maybe in August. I'll give it a little bit more time here. But yeah, right now, no, I don't have cucumbers. Literally just finished. They were growing right here on a trellis actually, and I pulled the whole trellis down, gutted this all out. So you've been looking for big containers for your fruit trees and you can't find any. That's hard. I ask around nurseries. Sometimes they get all these extra containers they don't know what to do with. Also Facebook Marketplace. That's what I would do if I had to find some big containers. I'm scrolling through again to see more questions. Someone says you keep burning your squash, melons, cucumbers when fertilizing at the plant base. Does the plant feed on the fertilizer if applied a bit further away in order? I think the most important issue here is why are they burning? I have to know what kind of fertilizer you're using. If it's synthetic stuff, you can very easily risk the burning them with synthetic stuff. So that's one of the reasons why I don't use synthetic stuff. I really like the organic granular fertilizers. They're gentle. They, for the most part, it's pretty hard or difficult to burn your plants with organic fertilizers. It's possible with huge amounts, though. We're doing a lot here with the organic stuff, but most likely not. The synthetic stuff, if you're not following those directions, you could be over applying. There's a lot of stuff that can happen with this synthetic stuff. So that really would be my question here. What kind of fertilizer are you using? Do the plants feed on fertilizer if applied a bit further away in order not to burn them? Yeah, there's technically, same thing with fruit trees. There's like a ring, kind of. If you have a vining plant, no, this doesn't apply. But fruit trees, there's like a ring around. The roots will extend out a bit. When you're fertilizing, do not put fertilizer stuff touching the stems. So your squash, your melons, don't have that stuff touching your stems. Put it a tiny little bit away. Maybe that's what's going on. Do I vernalize my garlic? I haven't had the need to, because when I ordered my garlic from Practical Plants, they vernalized it for us, like pre-vernalized it, and then shipped it to us. So it was ready to go. But if he was not doing that for us, I would have to vernalize. I think it's like 8 to 10 weeks. You just put them in a brown paper bag in the fridge for 8 to 10 weeks to vernalize before planting. If you're in Florida, you have to vernalize. Yes. Someone said harvested a sugar baby watermelon. The tendril was brown, but when I cut it open, it was all white and not ripe. What happened? Melons are kind of hard to tell just that perfect stage of when to harvest them. It could be a lot of things. Just because the tendril was brown doesn't mean it's absolutely ready. That is one of the indicators. It is. But like, for example, right now, I don't know where you're located, but right now in Florida, it rains a lot. So it causes melons and stuff to swell with all that extra water, and it doesn't get ripe and sweet. It gets like just watery and not good. It causes the melons to break and crack and all that kind of stuff. So it could be just a combination of that. Why not use strawberry seeds? I must be like way back here because I was already discussing this. Strawberry seeds, because for southern gardeners, you want to pop your strawberries in the ground in October, and we have a short-ish growing season for strawberries. So if we also had to start them from seed, that would take an enormous amount of time, basically. And a lot of the varieties that are good for southern gardeners, they don't sell them like that in seeds. They're always sold like in crowns. Have I grown arroz con pollo peppers? Do they go by another name? I do grow certain peppers that, like ají cachuca, if that's how you say it, that grows in the Caribbean and stuff like that. And we do use that to make like sofrito and whatever. Actually, I have a video coming out about that. I have a lot of videos, I said. So arroz con pollo, I don't know if it comes in other names like ají cachuca or something. If not, I will definitely want to Google that one and just see what that's about. Am I going to restock Seminole pumpkins? I am out of Seminole pumpkins for now. I am waiting. I don't have a crop growing right now. That's why I was waiting. I didn't want to plant that right now during the summer. Disease and pest pressure is very high. I need to get them in the ground though, like first week of August, so that they get big vines and start producing and all that well before my first frost. So I'm just kind of pushing that back. So it literally is going to be some months. And I'm expanding my garden tremendously, not here, but on my aunt's property. And that's one of the reasons, because I keep running out of Seminole pumpkin seeds and some of the other things. And I'm hoping, with that additional space, I'll be able to grow a lot more. So I can keep that more in stock. If you feel like your plants are taking too long to actually grow and fruit, the first thing I'm going to guess is fertilizers. When I started growing food, I was real like, I'm only going to use fish emulsion, and those are weak fertilizers, or compost. That was it at the beginning. And things just didn't thrive, didn't really take off, didn't produce like what I see other people are getting. Those are really weak fertilizers. And when I made the switch to like Espoma, organic granular stuff and whatever, huge improvement. Huge difference. Or your timing is wrong. That's the other thing. You're either planting things at the wrong time of the year, which causes plants to just not thrive. They don't like it. They stay stunted, all those things. And if your tomatoes have lots of flowers but no fruit, it's too hot. If they have lots of flowers and they just fall off or they crisp up and turn brown, it's too hot. There's nothing you can do about that. You're growing them at the wrong time of the year. That's why I don't grow tomatoes during the summer here. I'm in Florida. No, ain't gonna work, okay? You're just gonna grow a plant, struggle trying to keep it alive because all the pests and diseases are attacking it, to get no fruit, because it's not gonna produce anything until the temperatures cool down, if you get that plant to survive. If you're in a more northern, more temperate climate, summertime is your time to grow tomatoes, so you should be fine. But if you are seeing no fruit production, the flowers, it's fruiting, flowers, it's too hot. It's probably too hot. Second, I would guess bad pollination, but most people have tons of bees in their garden. Pollination isn't through bees and stuff is not the problem. Another thing you could try is shaking, like as you walk past your tomato plants, tap the flowers, shake them to release pollen. Each tomato flower has both male and female parts in it, so they're wind pollinated. When the wind shakes that flower, the pollen is released and it almost immediately pollinates that female part of the flower and you're going to get fruit. So oftentimes when I'm walking and inspecting my tomatoes, I will shake them or shake the trellis they're on, whatever. And that does help increase pollination and fruit set. But if it's too hot, there is nothing you can do about that. So how long does it take to grow garlic? Here in Florida, if you plant October, November-ish, you would be harvesting about now. It's a very, very long time. So I don't know if you heard, I said I planted a whole bunch. They looked great. They were growing great. My harvest was destroyed from, mostly it was too much moisture, because not good airflow, because I had another crop covering it and trapping stuff in there. So knowing that it's going to take, well, it's not a full year, 9 months, 10, 12, 9 to 10 months. You make sure you keep an eye on them and make sure they survive that long growing period. But it does take a long time. You can't get eggplant seeds to germinate. Any tips and tricks? Yes. So make sure you're getting good seed, first off. Same thing with tomatoes and peppers. This goes for eggplant. Use heat mats. That's one thing actually. When I think I got disconnected really quick. Usually my classes are not 2 hours long. Usually it's 1 hour, but I love talking too much about gardening, so I forget the time. And we don't really have anything else going on tonight. But I should probably wrap this up. It's starting to be sunset anyways. But eggplants, peppers, tomatoes. Put your seedlings. I don't know if you saw earlier, I put them in solo cups and I put that in a 10 by 20 tray. I put that entire tray over heat mats and it just kind of keeps it a little bit more warm. That really helps speed up germination. I don't use humidity domes because I live in a very humid place to begin with. So I don't want to be trapping more humidity, which also causes pathogens and stuff to spread. So for me, I don't use humidity domes. But if you're doing this indoors or something like that, humidity domes would help you. But with that alone, it's soil warmth and moisture that you need to get the eggplant seeds to germinate. Yeah, my dog is like, get off already. We just got him. He's a golden doodle. I wanted a golden retriever. I've only ever had like Yorkies and stuff like that, small dogs, and they're very yappy. I'm sure every dog is different, but my experience with them is very yappy. And I hadn't had a dog in like 8 years actually. And we settled on a golden doodle because my husband has really bad allergies. So I wanted a bigger golden retriever-like dog. He wanted something he wouldn't get sick to, and he actually does not have allergies to my dog. So, and this dog was supposed to be my husband's dog. And my son's, not my dog, because I am so busy, as you can see, very busy. But this dog doesn't want anyone else. He just wants me. He don't care about them. As soon as we come home, he runs right past them to me, stares at me, follows me around all day. Like, what can I do? I can't say no to that. So he is the best dog I've ever had, and I've only had him for like 3 months now. It's amazing how different dogs are. You know, they're not all the same and whatever. He's amazing. I love him. He's very quiet, doesn't bark, doesn't chase my chickens, none of that stuff. Your eggplants grow but never get ripe enough to eat. It's a weird question. Not weird for you asking the question, just weird that that's happening, because eggplants definitely ripen up. I mean, the only thing I can think of is you're not waiting long enough. I mean, sometimes even tomatoes take a while for whatever reason. Usually it's because it's too cold. And when things warm up, they start ripening up faster. But I'm not sure when you were growing them. Vigo Garden has a self-watering citrus planter with wheels. I actually have their tomato self-watering planter, and that's the one I'm testing out in my home, and it looks really cool. I love it. It's really nice looking, especially if you're trying to grow stuff indoors. I don't want it to look like a dirty mess, because my husband already is like, you need to stop. Too much. All right, next question. Bought a house with passion fruit vine, but it's very messy, overgrown. Do I cut it all down to the main and clean it off? Okay. Passion fruit vine is a huge, giant thing, okay? This is my passion fruit vine right here. Keeps going, keeps going, keeps going. This is up against my privacy fence, and this fence causes shade down here in the soil level. So I really couldn't grow things successfully, like other vegetable crops and stuff like that successfully because of that. But this passion fruit can do okay with some partial shade. Is a monster, and it's going over. Yeah, that's what happens with all passion fruits. This is a yellow Brazilian passion fruit, actually. And I am totally fine with this because I can't grow anything else in this whole strip here anyways. And it's doing great. It attracts butterflies. It's a butterfly host plant for Gulf fritillaries and some other one, I believe. It has produced fruit for me. I had seeds on my website and they went like this. I might, if I have any right now, it's probably just like one packet left. They went really fast. It's flowering right now. I have to hand pollinate this one. This variety you have to hand pollinate. The other ones, no. But hopefully I'll have seeds again soon. But I have seen passion fruit grow up telephone poles. It is massive. And a lot of these varieties also send out roots underground that will send up runners all over the place, like past 10 feet away from the plant. Very vigorous and can be considered invasive. So for smaller gardens, I don't recommend that. This yellow Brazilian passion fruit, though, doesn't do that with all the roots popping up, running, and all of that. I planted 3 of them here, 1, 2, 3. It has a main stem, and it's maintained that. It hasn't like spread all over. So what you can do, if you have to maintain the size of the passion fruit, go ahead and cut it. That thing ain't gonna die. Okay, they're crazy fast growers, all of that. But it will grow back eventually. So if it's just in a spot that's bad to begin with, and you don't want to deal with having to constantly be cutting it down, maybe you should get rid of it, give it to a friend that has more space, or plant it somewhere else, because it will come back. Passion fruit is one of those things that I did not like to eat until I started growing it myself. Very different. And there's lots of different varieties too, besides the standard ones that you see at the grocery store. What type of asparagus am I growing? They do grow here in Florida. I am growing all sorts. It doesn't matter, the variety really. I mean, there's some that are bred to be more heat tolerant. There's one, I do have plants for it on my website. UC 157 is bred to be more heat tolerant, but I have grown all sorts. Even Mary Washington, which is like a real standard heirloom variety. All sorts. They will grow. I don't know about you zone 11 people, because that's really, really, really hot. Definitely. But zone 10, we're like right there. Like excuse me, we're like right, I'm trying to get this dog to move. We're like right there with probably being successful with growing asparagus. And I had a massive asparagus bed. I was harvesting finger thick or more, like huge spears. Love growing asparagus. And I had to, it also spreads. The root system grows outward throughout the years, and it was just overtaking the area I had to yank all that stuff out, which is not fun. So make sure you plant your asparagus in a very good permanent spot that you don't care if they go crazy there, because those roots are very deep, and to dig that out is not fun. And the plants get huge. They get over 6 feet tall. They look like really fine fern type of texture. Really cool landscape looking plant. But I replanted it over here behind me. There's a lot of space there for it to kind of go crazy. So I might be lucky if I harvest this upcoming year. Not sure. A lot of people say don't harvest them until they're like 2 years old or whatever. Yeah, but I like to buy 2-year-old crowns to begin with, and I harvest when they start producing pencil thick spears. That's just my thing. But yeah, also, I said this earlier, I have a theory that the darker colored versions of the fruits and vegetables, like purple carrots, are more heat tolerant than regular orange carrots. Same thing with tomatoes. The black or purple tomatoes tend to be more heat tolerant than the regular, like reds or yellows, whatever. So there is a purple variety of asparagus. I'm growing that one as well, and it looks really good. So you might want to focus on, you know, that purple. I think it's called Purple Passion. So also try to buy 2-year-old crowns if possible, because that will help speed up how soon you'll be able to harvest, because the plants are a little older to begin with. I'm scrolling through trying to find more questions. I have to filter out between just comments and then questions. I do plan on direct sowing my Seminole pumpkin seeds beginning of August. I mean, you can sow them in containers. That's totally fine. But when it comes to squash, cucumbers, melons, they always, the ones you direct sow from seed into the ground will grow way faster than the ones in containers. Like if you direct sow some seeds today and grow some in some containers today, so, you know, planted the seed at the same time, the one in the ground will take off and be much longer, bigger, whatever, by the time you plant the one in containers. Plants kind of sense the space they have, like their root systems. I don't know. They can tell that they're in a restricted little container or if they're in a, you know, in ground. What's the best way to grow avocado trees with good fruit? Start with a good variety. Don't grow your own avocado tree from a seed like that you got from the grocery store or something like that. And I would say that for actually a lot of fruits, because one, it's going to take like 20 years, 15, 20 years for that to finally start producing. That's why they graft avocados and citrus, whatever, fruit trees, a lot of them, onto an older mature rootstock to get that tree to start producing. Usually within 2 years is pretty standard. So that's why I say buy an avocado tree. Buy a 3-gallon size container one. You don't have to get the really big ones. Like spend more money on that, because the 3-gallon size ones, and this is for all fruit trees in general, the 3-gallon size one is going to grow so fast and catch up anyways. So it's just cost effective, I guess. Save your money. Go with the 3-gallon size. Don't go with the 1-gallons. That will take forever to start fruiting for you. 3 is good. Anything bigger than that is okay, but 3 is good. So go buy yourself a good avocado variety that's grafted onto. This dog's really getting restless here. He's literally right in front of me. But that go to a nursery. They will carry the cultivars of avocado that taste really good, produce really good, have disease resistances, all this stuff that grow well in your area. Always buy your fruit trees from a local nursery. Don't buy like these big fruit trees from online nurseries that carry just a whole bunch of stuff that might not be the best for your specific growing area. Your local places will carry the stuff that will grow well. So you know, then choose the varieties of avocados they have, because those are the good ones. I don't know where you're located, but personally my absolute favorite avocado is Brogden. Actually, I have one ripening up on the tree that I have to harvest now. But that's how you get good fruit trees in general, the good varieties of those. If you grow a fruit tree, let's say a peach or avocado or mangoes, a lot of people like to grow mangoes from seed. Mangoes take like 20 years to start producing from seed. You don't know what you're going to get. You don't know what variety that is. And even so, that seed is not true to be exact like the parent. Okay, so that mango you got from the grocery store that tasted so good, you can't guarantee that the tree grown from the seed in there is not going to be the same. So the flavor, the texture, the quality is not guaranteed to be the same. You don't know what you're going to get. So if you buy a grafted tree, hold on, what are you doing? If you buy a grafted tree, they are true to the parents. They will have the qualities that are good, so to speak. All right, I have to go, guys. I'm still, wow. Okay, lots of questions, way more than I thought. I can't, guys. I don't know if you noticed, my voice is like starting to get scratchy because I've been talking for 2 hours straight. I can go on and on about gardening and talk to anyone about it forever and ever. I'm surprised you guys have been here for 2 hours watching me. But thank you so very much. If I missed your question, email me, info@jarrahsgarden.com. I answer all the emails myself. I don't have a team of people, guys, so I package all the orders, ship stuff out, make these videos. I have an editor that helps me edit videos, and she also helps me post stuff to my social media so it stays consistent. But besides that, that's it. Like, I'm doing all this stuff. So you are talking to me if you send me a message or an email or something like that. What local nurseries do you recommend near Florida? I'll answer this one really quick for my Florida peoples. Personally, I do have some stuff too on my website, but it tends to be smaller things and seeds that are easy to ship. Personally, if I was going to go buy like bigger fruit trees and stuff like that, I've been buying a lot of my bigger fruit trees from Nick's Edibles. He's in St. Cloud, Florida. You can find him on Facebook only. He's a person like me, backyard nursery guy, gardener, whatever, very knowledgeable. Every single tree I've bought from him has grown for me amazing. And he has his selection is really great. But you can only find him on Facebook. Practical Plants and the Reed Farm in DeLand. I actually did a video a couple weeks ago. It's on my channel about food forest building tips and stuff like that. It was at the Reed Farm. He has a lot of really cool, unique stuff. If you get something from him, tell him Jarrah sent you. Also Cody Co Farms, I've visited them. Really cool. They have a mini food forest you can tour. And so it's really cool to see like that aspect of it. So does the Reed Farm and Practical Plants. They all have food forest. So you can go tour their food forest, see what they're doing, growing, and buy from their nurseries. So really cool to be able to do that. I hope to move and get land so I can do that too. But and Lucas Nursery is really good. They're a bigger like standard company. I believe they are family owned. Their prices are a little bit expensive, but they're good quality fruit trees and they have a nice variety. I really like their butterfly garden section. They have a whole section of their nursery just dedicated to butterfly host plants, nectar plants, all that stuff. So it makes it really easy to just go in there and know, like what kind of plants to get. They have a pretty big selection of fruit trees, like the bigger ones too. I feel like I'm missing people because I go all over and visit nurseries and stuff everywhere. If you're in Tampa, I really like Jean's Tropicals. She's in St. Pete though. There's another one in Tampa. I don't know if they're from Thailand or something because I've seen them on Facebook and the writing looks like Thai writing or something, or Vietnamese maybe. I think they're called like Fancy Free Fruit, something like that. They have quite a good selection. And then South Florida people, you guys have the best nurseries, Miami, Homestead. I mean, so many, because that's where like all the companies that produce the fruit trees that they ship around the country, and also, you know, to like the rest of Florida and the rest of the country, they produce them all there, the tropical stuff. So really, really good selection of stuff over there. I saw on Facebook, and I follow this person, they're called Zane's. I don't know if it's Zane's Garden World, Zane's Fruit Trees. I think it's Xain. They're in South Florida. They have some stuff that I don't even know what it is. Okay. And they're constantly putting on their Facebook. It's a very small Facebook page. I cannot remember the exact name, but it's Zane, Xain. I don't know if they ship. You might want to check them out. Really cool, unique stuff. And I'm missing a lot of people, okay? There's a lot of people I have visited, I have bought stuff from, I see on social media. There's a lot. I always kind of prefer local, smaller, like not these big nursery companies, because again, these are the people that will carry the unique, hard to find stuff that you will not find anywhere else. And Pine Island Nursery, way down in, like, I think it's Homestead. I've been there before. If you go there, very close by is the fruit and spice park, fruit tree and spice park, which is really cool to visit. It's like a big, huge acres and acres of fruit trees you can walk through. If it fell on the ground, you can eat it. They don't let you like pick off the trees and eat it. It's like if it fell down type thing. But really cool to do like this road trip. I did a couple years ago through Miami, hitting all these nurseries, the fruit and spice park. They have a lot of fruit stands. I think right now is lychee season. So on the side of the road, you'll see vendors selling tons of lychees, which is like one of my top 3 favorite fruit. So fun little trip if you're in Florida to do that. I kept talking and I said I was going to go. Oh, South Eden Edible Nursery, Kissimmee. Yes. They're good too. Someone says they've been trying to find organic starts near Winter Park. I have a thing against seeds and plants that people say are organic. It doesn't matter. It does not matter. If you buy seed that is not organic and you plant it, it's not going to be any different than if you spent the extra money and got organic seed. Why? Because it all depends on your growing practices. If you're organic and you're growing that plant organically, you're not spraying the fruit you're about to eat with a bunch of chemicals, and it's organic, great. You now have organic food, right? But the seed itself, being organic or not organic, doesn't matter. We're not spraying the seeds with those chemicals, or, you know, the seeds are inside of the fruit and stuff like that. They're not, for the most part. It doesn't matter. What's more important is how you decide to grow your garden from that seed. Even little transplants, being organic or not organic, doesn't matter. As a little transplant, it's probably not heavily sprayed with stuff like that yet. Anyways, so plant it in your garden, and growing it organically is what matters if you want to go that organic route. And I'm organic pretty much like all the, I don't know if you saw, I was showing BT spinosad, like a hydrogen peroxide spray that I use. All that stuff is considered organic. The only time I don't use something organic is with corn, because corn requires a lot of nitrogen if you want to get those really big, tall stalks of corn and ears of corn. And I cannot find an organic source of high enough nitrogen for that. So I am not certified organic. I'm a backyard gardener, seed dealer, nursery, whatever. I'm not certified organic, but for the most part, except with corn, I do grow organically. But what matters most is how you're growing your plants in your garden. I wouldn't pay the extra money for organic seed or plants. Muscadine grapes are good for fresh eating. There are some varieties that I keep going. I keep saying I'm going to go, and then I stay. I want to answer your question though. Muscadine grapes, they are good for fresh eating. There are some cultivars that are better for fresh eating than others. There are some muscadine grapes bred to be better for like wine production and that kind of thing, so they tend to not be as sweet. But they have more recently, the last couple years, there's been a lot of efforts into breeding muscadine grapes that taste good, and the skin, because a lot of times the skin is real, like kind of thick, not that great when you're biting into it, and they have a lot of tannins that make the flavor bitter. And so there's been a lot of newer cultivars and stuff bred that have thinner skins, not bitter, all that kind of stuff. So do your research and choose a better variety for fresh eating. As far as I know, every type of muscadine grape does have seeds, though. You're not going to find a seedless one like your table grapes and stuff like that from the grocery store. But I love muscadine grapes. I just spit the seeds out. They're huge, they're juicy, they grow well, they produce a lot. Like, I'm fine with that. Zane's World Nursery, thank you for putting that. That's the one that I found on Facebook. I follow them too, because they're always posting like weird things that I've never had before, tried, seen. So really cool, different of fruit trees. Tulsi is not the same as African blue basil and Thai basil. They're all three of those are different. Thai basil is like an herb, the Thai version of basil. It's not the same as Italian basil. Like for pesto, it kind of has a little bit different flavor, but Thai basil grows really well in hot climates. I have a plant over here that has been living for like 2 years in that spot. Like they grow like nothing. They're great. The Italian types of basils have a little bit more difficulty with all the extra rain and heat that I get here in Florida. I'm not sure if you're in Florida. So they struggle, but I grow those in containers, especially grow bags, that keeps the soil a little bit on the drier side, and they do so much better. And the flavors are a little different between them. Tulsi, I do have a Tulsi plant. I don't really know much about that though and its uses, but I do have one growing because I want to learn more about it. But it's not the same culinary wise. Like, you're not going to make pesto with Tulsi, and you're not going to make pesto with African blue basil either. African blue basil, you can eat it, but it doesn't have that pesto-y Italian type of basil flavor. It tastes to me more like the Thai basil. But it's not really the best for cooking, although a lot of people will comment to me that they eat it, they make pesto with it, they do all this, but the flavors are just not the same. The reason why I grow African blue basil is because it attracts so many pollinators. It's like the #1 pollinator attracting plant in my garden, along with tithonia and sunflowers, I would say, and the passion fruits. Those flowers, those bees, everything, bees, butterflies, everything go crazy over passion fruit flowers. Okay, I really have to go now. Okay, I do not know when I will be doing another garden class. It's totally random. So best thing, again, make sure you're part of my email group. There's a link in the description for this class. There's a link on my website, whatever, because that's where I will like send an email out to tell everybody and announce when there will be a new class. Can African blue basils be started from seed? No. African blue basil is a hybrid that produces sterile seed. So you can only get it from cuttings. I do offer them on my website. I gotta go propagate. I gotta get to it. It's ready. I just need to cut it, root it, all that stuff. So it's gonna be a while, but you have to get it a plant or get cuttings. It does not grow from seed. I originally found my African blue basil from Lucas Nursery in Orlando, like North Orlando, Oviedo. I don't know, North Orlando. That's originally where I found them, but they don't have that at all times either, so call ahead. But that's the only place that I've seen it. It's not really a common thing to find. Thank you so much, guys, and don't forget, it's time to start heirloom tomatoes from seed, and all of my tomato seeds are on sale, and the sale ends tomorrow, so you can get a nice discount on that and try out a whole bunch of new seeds. A lot of them were first time I was growing them this season, and a lot of them, they're really great. I have a couple YouTube videos reviewing, taste testing the tomatoes too, if you want to learn more about them before you choose, you know, which ones you want to grow. But yeah, tomatoes are my favorite thing to grow, so I'm kind of obsessed with them, if you haven't noticed. But all right, guys, thank you so much. I can't believe you guys stayed on here with me for an hour, 2 hours and a half. Thank you so much. I always love talking to you guys. And I'll see you next time in the next class. Thank you, and have a great rest of your evening.